Welcome back for episode 5 of the Dirt to Daytona Wednesday night track walk. Man, we really are doing this. 5 episodes in, we're holding strong, we're putting a lot of work in and we're enjoying what we're doing. First things first, I would like to welcome everybody in. It's great to be here. I'm your host, Joshua Temple. And my co-host for tonight and every single night, Mr. Nep, Jason Nepper.
Thank you, Josh, for welcoming me back. I enjoy doing these shows, man. Every week, I look forward to it. It's the highlight of my Wednesday night.
Nep, it's a blast. I mean, like I said before, we do put a lot of work into this, but we enjoy what we do, and it's not work if you're having fun. So, thank you for putting in as much effort as I do. Shiesty as well, and Shiesty's here again. Shiesty's gonna be missing tonight, but don't worry, he'll be back next
I'm
week.
sure, I'm, I'm sure at some point he'll pop in on the show. He does every week. He
He
tells us
does.
ahead of time. He
Yep.
says, "I'm not gonna make it tonight, guys." All right, well, we're going on without you. And then, bloop, here he pops up. Like, hello, welcome to party, pal. Shit.
Nep, you are breaking up just a little bit. I just do want to let you know, but it did clear up at the end. But
All right.
without further ado, let me hand the stage and the microphone over to Jason Nepper, and let's dive into his garage talk.
Hello, racers and race fans. Welcome to another episode of Garage Talk with Nep. Last week we talked about the start of the Dirt to Daytona Racing League, and we did a little review of the very first season of racing action. Once again, our champions from season one, we had two crowned. As y'all remember, it was a three night event. Each night had a separate champion. You know, night one, champion was Smo, and then night two and night three went to Mr. Joshua Temple. You know, it was a great season. Josh, you were here last week when we talked about season one. It was a
Hmm.
blast. And with that being said, where do you go after season one? You know, you know, coming
Yeah.
off of that,
Yeah.
where do we come from?
Let me touch up on that. After season one, we ran the 3 different races, and it was a lot of thought process on what to do. We had fun. We were bringing in new people. We used to run a league that was the Road to Glory Dirk series. We had more people wanting to come over from that at the time. We still had that league rolling, so we did bring more people in. I believe we started this season with about 7 to 8 more people than we had the season prior. So we're approaching 20 people altogether. So I put my thinking cap on. Sadly, at the time, the person that was helping me with the league didn't really give me a lot of insight. But we uh, we went through and agreed to make the season longer and run a Monday and Tuesday night Cup Series league. That the rest was history. That set up for what we have to this day. And
Yeah.
to yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No. So we decided to set up that style. We still wanted to keep it on the quicker side. We had 17 races, 17 race season for season two. Then trust me, it was one hell of a ride, and I can't wait for you guys to hear what we endured during that season.
You know, like we did last week, we gave a little talk, review of season one. So continue on that road to where we came from. We're about to start up. You know, correct me if I'm wrong. Season six. You know, first part of November. You know, along with the other three classes that we're running. So this week we're going to take an in-depth look at season two. from the first ever draft to a rundown of each race and how the points and awards, because we gave out awards that year,
That we did.
you 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 know how they shaped up. Of course, with me tonight, along is naturally we got Josh. You can't have the show without Josh.
I'm
But
here.
uh, you know, along with Josh tonight on this episode, I have two new guests to the show. First, and he is the primary sponsor of the ARCA series, and I'll let him tell a little bit more about that. But my first guest is Mr. Robert Leonard, aka Bullet Bob 83. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate being on.
Well, we're glad to have you, and we're glad for everything you do for this league. Behind the scenes and everything. You have been a trooper since season 2. We'll touch on a little bit more of that. But one thing we do anytime we have a new guest on here, the first thing we do is we have you get on here. Give us a little story about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm one of the older guys in the league, I think. Me and James, maybe a couple other guys, but I'm 9 days away from turning 59 years old.
Happy
I
birthday.
only, thank you. And the only games I play is Madden and racing games. I'm a dirt track guy. I raced dirt track for 20 years at the local tracks. I ran pro stocks and I ran front wheel drives. So that's how I got into racing. I own my own business, First Place Auto Glass. I've been doing auto glass for 35 years. And I've owned my own business for, this will be 10 years coming up now. I've had my own business. So that kind of plays into, you don't see me on practicing a lot. I get on when I can. But my biggest thing here is I like to do it. It's when you have all the pressure of owning a business, it's like a release. It's fun. It's getting on with other people, just talking. It's nothing to do with work. And sometimes you'll see me get on 5 minutes before the race and I don't know practice, but I try my best. I get on, I do as good as I can. If I practice, like Josh has told me before, if I practice more, like I tried to get a steering wheel and I didn't have the time to practice, so I got rid of it. It's just, I don't have the time. But I love being in this league. I love everybody in the league. It's like a big family. It's one of my highlights of the week getting to do this. It, gets me out of my work mode.
Well, Bob, I have to say, prior to NASCAR and you running over here, I was able to be in a dirt league with you over on World of Outlaw. And one of my I so hard tried to get a win. And there was always, I'd be running up front, and there was always one person that would always take it from me, and that was your ass. It never felt. For that one season there, it seemed like it was you and me up front every single race, and you always seemed to beat me out. So I've been running with you for a while, and I'm glad to see you over here. I was a dirt guy myself. I think you were probably recruited by Jay Clay as well. But that's who recruited me to come over here to the Dirt to Daytona League because and I told him the same thing. I was like, dude, I'm a dirt guy. I'm asphalt's
Yep.
for getting
Yep.
there,
Same here.
dirt's for racing. But since I
Yep.
came over here, I actually almost forgot about the dirt aspect, and I
Yep.
focused a lot on this. So we're glad to have you tonight, and glad to have you sit down as we go through this little rundown. The rundown of season 2, and there's more. There's a few more things in this segment that we're going to touch on base with you, but we'll get to that momentarily. But with that being said, let me bring in my second guest for tonight. This guy was he's another impact driver in this league, and along with season 2, Mr. Antonio Pollock, aka Harvick 0429 underscore Bowl. Antonio, welcome to the show, bud.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. You know, just like we did with Mr. Bob when he popped on here. we always have the new people tell us a little bit about themselves. So go ahead and fill us in on who you are.
Well, first off, I'm a father of two, a little girl and a son, which 4 years old and 2 years old. Um, I'm a first responder with the fire department. Just recently moved from Hazleton to Bloomsburg, PA. I work at a golf course going for 1 year, coming next year. I also used to work at more than one fire department, but I downsized it to one. A little too much on my hands now these days.
I hear you there.
Then when I come home from work, I my basically like relaxing, just hopping on the game system, racing in leagues with other guys, figuring out new stuff with the cars, handling, especially on a controller. Controller makes it a lot more different than a wheel does.
Oh yeah. That's one thing, I had to learn when I first come over to this league. I was on a controller, and I had a wheel, and I decided I was going to get on learn it. And one of the best moves I ever did was learning the wheel. Um, but we're glad to have you tonight. And we appreciate everything you do with fire department and all that. Um,
Born and raised in a family of first responders, so it runs in the blood.
hey, well, you know, season two, we're talking about this season, and you had a good season. Josh, anything you want to add in with these two?
First, I want to bring up. I will direct it straight to Harvick. Um, Harvick, I know you started with us back in season one. How and when and where did you join us?
Oh god, I think I found you guys on Facebook or in running with one of you guys in another league. But season one, I really don't remember. Like I
It
said, I
might have
think
been
it was face.
Smoka because Smoka
It
came over.
yeah, yep, Smoka.
Yep, because I
I was
remember
running
that
with
you were in his.
Smoka,
Yep. Yeah.
and he basically introduced me to you guys, and
Hmm.
that's how I got in with season one, and I started running with you, Nepdog. I think Cowboy was here for season one also.
Cowboy.
Um,
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Dylan
but
Jacobs.
yeah, I
Yep.
just started running with these and started learning some more. And that was right before the next gen cars came on NASCAR E5.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But
No, that's definitely a long time ago. Um.
yeah,
But that's pretty sick. Like I said in last episode, I'm happy that people come in, they find a home here, and then they're just like, well, I want to bring other people in so they can enjoy it as well. So that's always a good thing to hear. But
like I
Exactly.
said,
Yeah.
it's been so long since I could
long time.
remember when I first came in.
Yep, definitely
So,
a long
uh,
time. But
yeah.
let me
Before we started the show, I had to sit down with Josh. It's like, dang, when did I come into this league? But I got to say, guys, I'm glad to have you all on the show this week. And as we go through this rundown and all that, feel free to speak up and mention things. Um, but y'all's here, so we're glad to have y'all as we let's travel back and recap season two of the Dirt to Daytona Racing League. Now, before we before any races could be ran, we had done built from a a good hand bit of people that we had on here. We had to add more people before season two started up. So before we could even run the first race, season one we all ran in one lobby, So but then the admins decided, let's go ahead and add teams to this. So we needed to figure out who was going to race for who. They assigned the owners of each team. There was 3 teams, and we had the very first ever draft to determine the teams.
Yeah, that was the first ever draft. Um, you know, I thought about it and just really wanted to implement something different. You don't see other leagues putting a draft together. You see other teams like just taking people left and right, whatever they join in, first dibs go. Fuck that. Nope. The way we had this thing rolling, having these teams is the craziest mix up because you want to be with let's say for instance I want to be with Bob per se. I don't get drafted with Bob. I have to now
Boy,
race
that didn't.
Bob. I, I I now have to race Bob, and I mean we'll get there in a future show. That'll be a conversation for another show. But me and Bob, we drive together pretty goddamn well. But
Right.
Nep,
Yeah.
take it off. Let's go over these teams.
All right. All right. Get my notes pop up here. There was 3 teams. We had for season 1 there was a team Ford, team Toyota, and team Chevy. The team owners, at first for team Ford was Mr. Avery Jarrett, aka AJ, and he had the first pick in the draft when he picked Troy Lampool, Dakota Wilhite, myself included, MJ Ott, Cody Bateman or Batman, and later after the draft we picked up a free agent for Team Ford, which was none other than Mr. MB. Representing Team Toyota, there was the team owner, Mr. Joshua Temple. His pick to be a part of team, which Toyota kind of had a disadvantage because you only had 6 cars. So you could only pick 6 drivers. So you kind of
Mm-hmm.
got shafted in the draft a little bit, but
Definitely did.
you still managed to pick some great drivers. You had Samo on your team, uh, Justin Claypool,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Todd White, Mike, Mike Crispus,
Crest.
and Crisp, and then Austin O'Keefe. So even with 6 cars, y'all still had a powerful team. Uh, and then the other team, Team Chevy,
Mm-hmm.
which consisted of team owner Dylan Jacobs, Cody Brewer, Antonio Pollock, Cody Foss, Matthew Mills, and Michael Hall. Along with that team, they were granted 2 free agents. They picked up Mr. Bullet Bob himself and Brad Nelson. And so we came into this with, like you said, about 20 people in the league.
Yeah, let's see. We were
Can I
at
say something here? That I became a free agent because, as you said before, we were all on dirt track racing, and you guys, Josh, Cowboy, Jay Clay, were telling me about the NASCAR League back in season 1, and I wouldn't go to it because I'm just so diehard dirt track. But then Cowboy talked me into it. He said, "You'll get to be a Chevy if you come on our team." And I said, "Okay, that's the only way I'm racing if I get to be a Chevy." So that's why I joined in when I did.
And you know what?
Well,
That was probably the best thing to happen in Team Chevy. They
it,
needed
yeah,
another solid guy. And Bob, I remember you saying that asphalt was meant to drive to get you to the dirt tracks. That's all
Yep,
asphalt
Mason.
was for, and that's all I
Yep.
remember you saying over and over again. But you were definitely a very very good pickup, and everyone was very surprised of what you could do on the asphalt surface.
Well, it was a great. It was you did great. But
Thanks.
after all the smoke was cleared from the draft, it was finally time to go racing. Now we're going to do a recap. Now we had 17 races in season 2. So if we was to go into full detail lap for lap, we'd be here till next week's episode. Let's just be honest. So we're going to give you a brief run. Everybody, we're going to give you all a brief rundown of each race. But you know, we're going to cover each race, and we'll we'll let you know who finished in the top 5, and we'll discuss the races, and we'll just move on down the line. So first race was none other. We took it to Kansas Motor Speedway. Um, it was a great race.
Can I throw something in here now?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this was our first race of the first season 2. Um, I don't remember too much from this. I sadly did not have a recording, so I couldn't go back to refresh my memory. But all I know was Team Toyota came out swinging early. Um, me and Samo, we worked very hard together in season 1. Um, and season 2 was nothing different. We worked hard. We gave each other room. You'll see in some of these, I will mention that we gave each other stage wins, or we held off a couple people so we can go out and get a win. And we race someone hard to let you get out there and grab a win. You know, Team Toyota Racing, we were out there working hard together. Um, as you saw, Bud Lightyear, that was his first and only season in the league. I'll touch on him more later on. Warwolf, he was in the league for the first 3 seasons. And then we split our separate ways because he didn't know how to run a team. And then if you look in fifth, MB, this is a rookie. He was a free agent. He has not had any race time with anybody. He comes in and pulls off a top 5.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what MB did in Team Ford was just phenomenal that season, and I was honored to be part of that team with him and all. But yeah, like you said, I mean, the top 5 positions, the top 4 were Toyotas, and they only had 6 cars in the field. Like, you know, who would have thought a team that has lesser drivers than the other teams would just dominate that first race for sure? And then, so, that first race was, it was fun to get back into racing after that first, we took a little break, like, I think it was like a couple weeks break
Yeah, it was
in
like
between
two,
the end of
three
season
weeks
1 going into
break.
season 2,
Yeah.
and had to do the draft and all that. So when it was really time to get back down to racing, it was good to, get started up. You know, from race 1 at Kansas, we went, then race 2 we went over to Richmond. And with race 2, I give before we throw a little insights in on that race, what took place in that race. Let me give you a rundown of the top 5. Chevy bounced back, with Mr. Harvick himself pulling out the win. And this is a man that was a free agent, comes in, and his second race in the league, he wins it. And then Josh, you finished a close second, followed by Lightyear, BMF in fourth, and then rounding out the field was Killer. So that was an interesting race. Harvick, you had the best car in that race. To be honest.
Yes, I
Yeah,
did, and let me tell you, it was not easy beating Josh.
Well, Josh kind of beat himself in that race. He kind of, wrecked himself twice. But you know,
Well, during that race, I was behind him. I don't remember if it was the first stage or second stage, but I remember it well because I asked him about it. He got loose in turn
three.
3,
That was
and
stage one.
I texted him. I was like, "Hey, did I get into you?" He goes, "No, I just got loose and you got underneath me and took the lead." I was like, "Okay, just making sure."
Yeah, that was in two. I got loose, and you had to run down the backstretch. Entering three, I try to enter under you, and I caught the apron, and it fucking just turned the car around, and I went from first to I think eighth or ninth. That was a rough stage one.
But yeah, I did have the car. It's just getting through the field and making sure you're not involved in anything, any of the wrecks or any mayhem. It's just keeping your car clean to the end. Then once I came to the end, I knew Josh and the rest of the Toyotas were behind two Chevys, me leading and BMF and in second coming on to the last restart. And
and
it's just getting your gears right on the restart.
you know, and then right there towards the end of the race, you was running hard, and you know, Cranks, Crankus Therapy, he was another driver that used to run with us. He was battling hard with you, and he messed up and lost control, and you know helped helped you out in the long run. So it was a good second race of the season, that's for sure.
Yeah, every time when I looked up and I seen that number 18 in my mirror, I was like, oh shit.
I don't think anybody says that. I'll be running in the back of the pack, and uh, here comes the lap, man. It's like, oh god.
That
you
18
know,
car was special, man. I ever since season two, and I felt my strongest ever in that season in that car. Up to this point, season one, I felt like not to say stuff was handed to me, but I felt like the competition wasn't right at where I was yet because people weren't as experienced in the game as I was at that time. So I felt like I had a huge advantage in season one. Um, the only one I truly didn't feel like I had advantage on was Samo. Whenever I saw Samo in his 45, it scared the shit out of me. Um, coming into season,
He was
yeah,
another one that you had to watch.
he was like seeing
yeah,
Dale Earnhardt pull up on your back bumper. That's what Samo reminded me about.
yeah. You knew
But
he was
yeah,
something.
going into Richmond races, I felt good about my car. It was just on who has a better long one car and how you could pull away from the field with these next gen cars.
Yeah, no, exactly. It just these cars were definitely they ran weird. They ran weird as hell. So
Yeah,
that was the
yeah,
that was the main thing. They were very tight, so it was hard to maintain not smoking the right front, or yet then you go ahead and overcompensate for not smoking the right front. Now you're breaking loose as hell out of the corners, and now you're smoking the right rear. It was hard to balance these cars out, man.
Yes, it
and then
was.
to go from the little small track of Richmond, and then to race three was the odd shaped track at Phoenix. Was an interesting one. You know, and the way that the admin set up the schedule was perfect because you had to really get on and practice to really get a feel for the tracks because they changed. You know, each race, one race you might run a short track, the next race you might run a super speedway or run a road course. So you had to really learn these cars, and it wasn't an easy task for some of us at first. You know, we went to Phoenix, and here comes Toyotas again. You know, out of the top five, Toyota finished claimed three of the top five spots. With you know Samo coming in, you know, race victory. Second place went to Bud Light year. Josh, you finished fourth place in that race.
Yes, I
Then
did.
here's a little Team Ford. We had AJ finishing third, and there's that name again,
Hmm.
Mr. BMF finishing fifth.
MB,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, MB, my bad. So and coming into that race, Bud and AJ were quick off the rip.
Hmm.
You know, it it was an action-packed race. Unfortunately, there it was there was quite a few cautions called in that race, especially that first segment. We were trying to get the feel for this track, and you know, you know, the top, just that first segment. I got tangled up in a little bit of a wreck there. That collected the back half of the field. 6 laps to go, restart. BMF gets hit. And push it. He ends up going up and collecting NASCAR. So I mean, it was, it was, it trying to get a handle on these cars. Just you know, it was something we all had to learn. You know, Josh, you want to add any insight to race three?
To race three, I'll be more than happy to. Um, you know, we had two green white checkers. We did have a lot, like you said, a lot of cautions in the first stage. The second stage smoothed it out a little bit. Um, the amount of aggressive driving that was going on was a huge, huge problem at the time, so to speak. Um, just because people were driving over each other in the corners. Um, this version of Phoenix, the track was super wide. You can go basically anywhere you wanted as long as the car's stuck. You're good to go. Um, and it just looking over the notes from that race, it just there were so many cautions, man. And it was people either staying out, not pitting with the whole pack, and now slowing the lanes down, and now getting ran over because they're in the way. Like that, that was a big problem. And people thought, all right, well, I can stay out here on 15 lap old tires and run first and keep first. Yeah, they lost the lead entering turn one. It Tires played a huge difference. And at this point in time of our whole entire Dirt to Daytona Racing League, this was still a three times wear race. It wasn't even four times wear yet. So
You know,
it was definitely it was one hell of a race.
you know, one other thing I think we were having trouble with at first was, season one we were all in one lobby, and we were able to talk to each driver and all that.
Hmm.
You know, if we were having issues with the car, we could tell, hey Josh, my car's just pushing in the turns or whatever. But when we were in season two, we were in team chats,
Hmm.
so we could only really communicate with, you know, the members of our teams. So, it getting a feel for our teams, and then on top of that, not being able to communicate with guys that might have been in a Chevy or in a Toyota,
Hmm.
that if we were having issues, they're coming up on us. They don't know we're having issues. So it was just something that, as a league together, we all kind of, you know we had to learn to adapt to not being able to just talk to anybody that's on the track and be able to, you know, we would have to watch the person in front of us and see what they were doing and okay, they bobble a little bit in turn three, so I need to make this maneuver and all that. So, and for the first couple of races, I think it was like that. It was trying to get a feel for the cars and, not being able to know exactly how maybe somebody in front of you is their car's handling. So now we've got it down to a T, if you ask me.
Yeah, that was down to a T. We'll have to see what the new game brings, but that will come in due time. But Nep, let's hop over here
Let's
to
go
race Ford.
race four and at Auto Club. You know, we, a lot of us we love running at Auto Club. It's a fast track. You know, and we look at race four, and once again we got Toyota. You know, taking three of the top five spots. With Bud Lightyear getting his first win of the season. Samo finished second, and oddly enough, Josh, you can touch on this in a little bit, but it was your first race of the season where you didn't place in the top five. Because but now there was a third Toyota in there with Killer comes up there and gets a fifth place,
Mm-hmm.
and then you look at third and fourth, we're Team Chevy with Cowboy getting a top five, finishing third, and Harvick coming out there and getting a fourth place finish. You
Mm.
know, so you know, first caution came out 3 seconds into the race. I don't even think we made it to turn one. And
I
it
think
was.
I think someone just hooked a right. The thing that's all it was. We took the green, someone hooked a right straight into the fucking wall. Um, but I will touch on this, Nep, if it's okay. Um,
Go ahead.
so yeah, Toyotas came out swinging. We definitely came out swinging. Um, Samo basically had control of this race for the whole entire thing. I think he actually swept both of the stages.
Yes, he
Um,
did.
Yeah.
no, no, actually, Samo won stage one. Um, it was Bud Lightyear that finished and won stage two. We were three wide for to win for stage two, so it was fun up there racing with those two. We were working very well as teammates early in the season, and it was really something that was progressing. I was hoping it was going to continue on, but we'll find out at a later time. Actually, almost about right now, as to that was completely not the thing. So just to give you guys
That
a little,
reminds
yeah, go ahead.
that that reminds. That's what happened to you. You were battling up there
Hmm.
for a top five finish, and a fellow Toyota teammate got into you and sent you down pit road, coming to
So,
the white flag.
so this was the whole thick of it. Me and Samo, like I said, we were the best teammates. We worked together so well. Well, we worked so well that we told Bud, "Hey, we're gonna let you win this one. Get up here. We will work with you." So he got up there. We let him out in front of us, and we're helping pushing him. Then this is when I found out that he was on a dirty side, but he actually drives up into Samo. Samo went to his outside, and he hooks her right up into Samo. He like flinched the back of his car, so he went up and just like tail whipped Samo, and actually kicked Samo's car sideways. Samo comes flying down, creams my right front out of the car, and I go flying down pit road. So that took my should have been a top five easy, and put me in the back of the pack.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, now I know what happened to you in that race.
Yeah, this was the first of, I believe, two or three incidents with said driver.
right.
Perfect. Yeah, that's about it with that race. I mean, like you said, Nep, Toyota's been shining almost every single race. They've been having the most drivers in the top five. I mean, from what I've been seeing, it looks like Chevy's the ones that should be right behind them. Once in a while, Ford gets it, but yeah, it's just right off the rip.
Yeah, we.
Toyota's working the best together.
Oh yeah, by far. You know, from Auto Club took us to race 5, which was at you know the legendary Daytona International Motor Speedway. And do I need to repeat who, what manufacturer comes off with a win there? Freaking Toyota. But for 5 straight races to start the season, we did not have a single two-time winner in the season. We had 5 straight different winners.
Hmm.
And this one coming off with Jay Clay pulling off his first win of the season. When he crossed the finish line. you know, Followed by Josh, and Werewolf had a good run that day as well. Finishing fifth, Toyota. Ford, we had AJ come out and finish third,
Hmm.
and BMF was able to scoop up a fourth place finish. There at Daytona. And racing at Daytona is always interesting because it's pack racing, and you really have to stay in your lane. Try to keep your car from bobbling up because there's going to be somebody beside you. And all it takes is one wrong move, catch the apron wrong, and it shoots up, and that's it. Your day's done. You know, Bob,
Yep.
you
That's
sat
the
on the
race that I
pole for this.
started at.
Yeah, you started on the pole for this race.
Yeah, that was my first race in the league.
Your second.
Second?
That was your
Yeah, it was
second
your
ever
second
race.
Okay.
ever
Yeah.
race in the league.
All right.
You know,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, caution. Once again, you get so many people right there, and one wrong move, to start off the race. You going in the middle of turn 1 and 2, out comes a caution because of wreck. Get started back up next lap, big wreck. Out of turn 4, cautions out. The joys of pack racing. Samo hates pack racing.
Hmm.
He hates the super speedways. You know, it's you got to find people that you can work with. You know, and I have found over the seasons that some of my best, I could be driving a Ford, and I might lock up good with Josh in a Chevy or in a Toyota. So but you have to find a partner to go with. The worst thing you want to do at any super speedway like Daytona is fall off that draft because once you fall off the draft, that's it. That's all she wrote. You know, Bob swept both both stages. And this is just his second race in the league. So he's
And that was
he's got
without Josh pushing me. For all
Yeah,
you
but
haters out there.
I love you, Bob. It's the truth, man. Like Bob did that by himself, and if you went back and watched which it is on my YouTube, Bob controlled the front of the pack. No matter if we had cautions, no matter if somebody had a run, Bob had that. He was driving the number one this season. He had that number one out front, and man, he worked his wonders at Daytona. And yeah, exactly what Bob said. All you haters out there, I did not push him this race, and he was doing great.
I
Yeah.
I I think that was I want to say that was the race that I had a good one of the stages I finished good in, and you know you go to dip down, it brings up the to set up your pit scheme and all that changes you want to make and all, and I run out of time on the clock and I forget to hit accept, so then I start the next stage on the pole completely out of freaking gas. which green flag drop. Luckily, I dropped down to the infield, so I didn't take out the field. But by the time I got all the way around the track and into pit, hell, I was like multiple laps down. It was just bonehead move on my behalf. I remember that race all too well because I was upset because I was actually running pretty good that first stage, first or second stage, or whichever one it was, and then go and do a bonehead move. I mean, it was frustrating, but you know, Jay Clay was able to come out with the win. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and Jay Clay, I love the man to death. You know, we have talked on the phone outside of racing leagues and all that, and he can almost be, in my opinion, he can almost be credited as one that brought a lot of drivers to the league. You know, brought me in, Bob, and multiple other guys have came on the show, and they've sat there and mentioned Jay Clay's name. So big shout out to Jay Clay, a buddy of mine. But Daytona was exactly what we were expecting. It was Daytona,
Mm-hmm.
and what do you do after Daytona? You got this super speedway. You're running, you know, all gas, no brakes. And what do? We go to freaking Martinsville, the race after. Like, from one extreme to the next, we go to Martinsville where it's on the gas, on the brake, on the gas, on the brake. And it, it was an interesting race. Top five finish there. Jay Clay coming off his win. He finishes fifth. Josh, you come out there, finish fourth. AJ for Team Ford, he come out there, finished third. BM&F moved up to second. You know, he finished in second place. And the race winner, none other than Team Toyota driver, Samo, comes off with a win there at Martinsville. You know, in a lap that, 10 laps in, caution flies. You know, AJ seemed to have a faster car, but, it's Martinsville. Tough ass little paperclip of a track. You know,
Yeah, and to touch on that, Nep, I mean, I just remember AJ was pulling away. Um, he had a real fast car. Um, so the funny part is Cowboy also had a car that can match AJ. So they went racing. They were coming to get the checkered flag for stage one. Cowboy and AJ both got loose out of turn four and wrecked. Somehow, someway, me and Samo were sitting second and third. I remember this. Somehow, someway, me and Samo were able to sneak through them, and it threw the caution right before we got to the line, and they credited me with the stage win, and Samo was second. Like,
I mean,
it was it was just crazy. A whole bunch of nonsense was happening like that. And you're just like, what the fuck's going on? And then you pull through it, and you're just like, holy hell, I made it through, and I won the stage. So the stage one was definitely insane. Um, Stage two, I know we were actually having a lag problem in the lobby. Um, Samos got out front and stayed out front, and he ended up snagging the stage two win. But yeah. Then when it came down to just who was going to be able to win the end of the race, we had only, thank God, only one green white checkered. Um, and as that happened, Samoa was actually able to come around to take the white flag. I remember going into turn one. AJ ran through the back of BMF's car. They both went flying up the track at one and two. I don't know if the caution came out for that specifically, but the caution flew, and as much as I thought Samoa already had the win, it guaranteed him the win. He ended up getting that. He definitely earned that one. Yeah,
oh yeah. I mean,
Martinsville was not easy.
no, Martinsville never is easy. You know,
Hmm.
because if you don't break right at the right point, you're gonna come up and pop the damn wall. If you break too soon, you catch the apron and it can loop you right there in front of the whole
Mm-hmm.
pack and all that. Which coming out of the turns, it kind of like sucks you up to the wall. When we race at Martinsville, so it's like you got to really catch the right, coming out of that turn. So Martinsville it was an interesting race. Um, and but once again, what does our admins do? So we've gone from a super speedway in Daytona, then we go to this little paperclip in Watkins Glen. I mean, at Martinsville. To the Then we go to the first road course of the season at Watkins Glen, and Josh, you come off with the win there at Watkins Glen, picking up your second win for the season. Uh, with Samo right there on your heels, coming in second. AJ comes in third, Cowboy fourth, and Bud Lightyear coming in fifth. You
So
know,
let me touch on this. I should
go
have
ahead.
not won this race. I will be 100% honest. I was getting smoked. There was point in times where I would be as fast as Samo, but on a lap to lap basis, Samo was the fastest car out there. He's almost guaranteed to be the fastest lap car out there at road courses. 100%. He is the guy to beat. Um, I remember is we're on the white flag lap. It's me and him. We pulled away from everyone else. AJ was another quick car that race. He was slowly catching us. We got into the last two turns of the racetrack. The first turn we got to, I think that's what turn 9 or turn 10. We hooked a left hander. Somehow struggled a little bit for some reason, and I realized that I got to his left rear. We got to the final turn. I grabbed the brakes and was able to turn my car down. Samo's car glided through the corner and went up high. So we came out of the final turn side by side. I passed him about 200 feet before we got to the start finish line, and I got him by like a half car. It was an insane ending to the race.
Yeah. A lot of people had issues with that very first turn.
Hmm.
You look at the race. You go back and look at the race. We had five green white checkers
Yeah.
before we were able to actually finish that race. Um, I know at one point, I think it was Watkins Glen, and I think it was this race. Um, I was I was cursing Bob because we come into one, and his car pushed up and just sent me off the track, and I went right into the wall. It's like, and I was having a decent race, and for a road course, I I'm just gonna say it. I suck at road courses, and I was actually having
Yeah,
a
me
decent
too.
race. And Bob comes into one, and his car drifts up, and I had nowhere to go. He sideswiped me and sent me for a ride. I was like, "What the fuck?" Type deal. I was like, "Damn." So, needless to say, when the checker flag dropped, I think there was a
Mm.
lot of us that was glad that that race was over with. You know. So from Watkins Glen, we go to a flat track in none other than New Hampshire Motor Speedway, the eighth race of the season, and we have a new winner for the season with none other than Mr. Cowboy pulling off the win, followed by, here's that name again, Esmiel Smo. Third place went to Josh. Fourth went to BMF. And are my eyes deceiving me? But is that a fifth place finish for Bullet Bob at New
First
Hampshire?
one.
I thought he was only a Talladega Super Speedway type of guy.
Hey, that's the people. That's my image, I guess. But I I can do some short track sometimes.
I'm just messing with you on that.
I know.
You know, but I felt we started to get the hang of things going into New Hampshire. The
Yep.
flat tracks, braking points and all that. 10 laps in, top two fully breaks away, being Samo and Cowboy. In any race, if Samo makes it to the race, we know, we just have a feeling, we're, we better bring our A game because otherwise Samo's going to walk us like a dog.
Mm-hmm.
He he is by far one of the best drivers in the league. I have to say. Great guy and all. Well, you know, New Hampshire. We discussed this with Smo last week, and where the infamous skating on you're on thin ice net came from. Because in that race, I'm back there doing my thing, trying to finish the race and all, and I come out of one of the turns and I miss my turn. I hit the wall and I come down. Well, I know that the leaders are coming up on me, and I'm trying to do everything I can to not get in the way or anything. But I hit the wall, come down, and I collect Mr. Smo. And that's where the infamous thin ice came from.
The iconic thin ice. It's
Yeah,
so
because it
thin you
cost
could
him the
see
race.
through it, ice. Yeah, just going back to recap on this one. I mean, Cowboy and Smo were the two horses. They would pull away. They would stay about a second, 2 seconds away from each other, and they would just race. And you know, it was pretty much going towards the end of this thing. Samo had it in the bag. He was able to pull out pretty far and everybody. I ended up getting caught up in a little bumping and banging right off the rip. So it was very hard for me to try to get back up front. I had to drive, I think, from ninth or 10th. I got in a long 5, 6 lap battle with MB for a little while. I drove up to Bob. I had to get by Bob. I drove up to BMF. It took me like 2 or 3 laps to get by him. And then it was just, all right, can I go up and catch these guys? And lo and behold, yeah, I mean, I was catching Cowboy left and right. Me and Samo were staying about the same distance away from each other, but I was slowly catching on him. And that's when the good old skating on thin ice happened, and Samo's car got a good amount of damage, and it really slowed him down. I mean, Cowboy caught him. I was probably 7/10 to 1 full second off those two when they finally got racing together. And if I had one more lap, I was there. And
Right.
yes, Samo had the race won until the last corner. The last
Well,
corner. Go ahead.
one thing that helped you out, Josh, to gain all
Mhm.
those spots was that last segment. We didn't have a single caution.
Mhm.
We ran that whole third stage caution free. So, you didn't have to get going and then have to stop and then deal with a restart and then all that. We were able to just stay green. Even, and that's one thing that did kind of hurt, Smo was when I did lose it and take them out.
Mhm.
No caution came out. So he had to limp the rest of the race with this wrinkled up, damaged car,
Exactly.
which allowed Cowboy to get by him, and you almost got up to him. So
Yeah. All I remember is Smo saying, "This stupid fucking car. It deserves to be in the wall." And I just see him hook a hard left into the wall right as he was crossing the start finish line. It just, yeah, he lost it in 3 and 4. When they got into 3 and 4, Cowboy was on the bottom, Smo was up top, and there was just nothing Smo could do. The car did not have to drive anymore.
you know, after you know after New Hampshire, race number 9, we picked up another uh, race, first season race winner as we went to the massive Talladega Super Speedway, where you know Ford's had a good run that race.
Mhm.
Um, we was able to take out, knock out first and second place. With MB crossing the finish line first, being pushed. I say what you want about AJ, but AJ helped BMF big on that race because um, I think AJ was already mathematically looking at AJ was already locked into the playoffs.
Yep.
MB was on the outside, and he needed a win in either that race or the following week to be able to get into the playoffs. And what's the best way to get into the playoff? Win a race. So AJ got behind him, and he said, "I'm gonna just run your race. I'm gonna push you to this win." And sure enough, AJ was able to push MB to the win and giving him his first win. Followed closely behind AJ was third place finisher Harvick. He come out there strong. Fourth place was Cowboy, and fifth place, of course, was the Toyota guy, Mr. J Clay. You know, and just like we said, Daytona, Talladega the same way. Pack racing, you got to be on your toes, ready for anything that could possibly happen.
Nep, I'm gonna touch on this a little bit and also shoot you a message. But yeah, I mean, going back and looking at this race, it was definitely, you know, a turning point for MB because he was having good finishes, but he wasn't getting to victory lane yet. So he was definitely doing what he could. Um, in this Talladega race, I mean, this did it for him. This really put him in the mindset of I can go out here and run with these guys. Yeah, people say it's Talladega. Yes, people say anyone can win, but not everyone can hold onto a car, pull the strategy to the perfect way that you can, and work with a teammate to go out and win the race. And that's exactly what he did. Um, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
He definitely deserved to win. He definitely deserved to win.
you know, we had a good strategy for that race. We had worked prior, with Team Ford. We had sat there and worked throughout the week actually because we all wanted to have a good run. I mean, um, at that time we also had Poppy Ghetto was on
Hmm.
our team, and you know, uh, Laser Beam. He was a part of our team. We were all, um, we were all trying to improve our finishing spots from before, and we come out there and we really worked good as a team that race, and we pushed. We were able to draft good and all, so it was good to see MB be able to come out there and pull off a win. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then look at Harvick. Harvick leading the Chevys. I mean, him and Cowboy got third and fourth. J. Clay being the only Toyota in the top five. It's weird. Whenever there's no other Toyota in the top five, J. Clay peeks his nose in and grabs the last spot. That's two times now he was able to do that when no other Toyota's in the top five. So that's J.K. J. Clay was a very special driver. I mean, you guys will see later on in this slideshow and this podcast that he turned it up in the playoffs. We'll just leave it at that. But Nep, let's dive off into this next race.
Yeah, before we could get to the playoffs, we had to have the final race of the regular season, and none other than Bristol Dirt. And there were some people came in there figuring that because they came from dirt background that they could be dominant there, and unfortunately that just kind of didn't happen that way. Um, Toyota came strong. Josh, you picked up another win for the season,
Mm-hmm.
followed by Samo in second. BMF came in third. Beastie Boy, who now at this point had took over running Team Ford,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he picked up a fourth place finish, and good old Mister Dirt Track Man himself, Mister Bullet Bob, picked up a fifth place finish.
Now, Bob, I have a question for you. Mr. Bob.
Yeah, I'm here.
I have a question for you, sir.
Yeah.
How was driving these cars for the first time on dirt? How did it feel to you? I'm so curious.
Well, it was nothing like the World of Outlaws game, that's for sure. Totally different, but it still had the same basic, you turn right to turn left, and
hmm
just just after some practice, it actually wasn't bad. It was like racing on dirt. I raced on dirt a lot of my life, so
Yep.
I had to get used to different tracks. I've raced on like 10 different tracks. So it's just a little bit of practice, and it's just same basic principles, but the car just handled different.
And again, this whole thing goes back to people saying you're a only restrictor plate driver. You literally you showed up. You were running second for a lot of stage two, and you finished second in stage two. You had a great car. I mean, it was not nothing compared to that 18 though. That 18 I had hooked up and locked in, and it was fun. But it was seeing you there. Yeah, I was just like, yep, you can tell Bob's in his zen. He's in his
Oh yeah,
home.
I was in my
Yeah,
glory. Yep.
exactly.
I was looking forward to that race. That was when I was looking forward to the most. I still do when we race there.
Yeah, sadly we
Yeah.
won't have it anymore.
You know, in that race, I swear, I think AJ and Samoa's car had magnets attached to each other
Mm,
because several times AJ, you know, got into Samoa and turned them, and then you know once on the front stretch, then come down the back stretch, and unfortunately caution didn't fly in those situations, and I want to touch on that real quick, Josh.
hmm
I hope with this new game that the cautions are a lot better than what they were in the Heat series because
hmm
numerous of times you know you get cars would spin out and it's like no caution to come out and it would just kill that person's race. So hopefully cautions are the game throws cautions a little bit better. You know, as we learned, if you we had to run on a relaxed caution because if you ran on strict caution, one car just barely touched the wall and it was throwing caution
hmm
flag. So, and I know that had some to do with it, but there was other times it's like I think there was one race I can't remember which race it was, but somebody went flipping down the infield, and because it was just a solo car, a caution never came out.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you know, but I mean it was a good race for it being on dirt, and I personally I never really I like the aspect of racing NASCAR on dirt and all in real life, but I felt there were probably better tracks out there that they could have done it at than a Bristol.
Then
You
Bristol.
know,
Yeah.
those and the next gen cars they just didn't handle right. I mean, I think even the first dirt race there at Bristol, they had all type of issues because these cars really were they weren't meant to race on dirt.
hmm
So it just didn't really, you know, hit like it should have. But we finished either way, with Bristol. So we're at the end of the first 10 races, which means regular season's over with. It's time for the playoffs. You know, our points leader and regular season points champion, and to be honest, was looking to be odds on favorite to repeat as a champion was none other than yourself, Josh. You come in there, number one in the points. Um, the round of 12 in points goes as followed: Josh Temple, Samo, BMF, Cowboy, Bud Lightyear, MB, J Clay, Bullet Bob, Werewolf, Killa, Harvick, and Mr. NASCAR. So that was our top 12 going into the the playoffs.
Now
You know,
I want to hear from Harvick real quick. Harvick, do we got you?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, so perfect. So I got a question for you. Um, how did you feel that your round of 12 was going to go with us going to Las Vegas, Road America, and Texas?
Not easy. To me, it would have a lot harder because with us being in different party chats and getting to other people and people thinking, oh, he did it on purpose, so he's gonna get payback sooner or later, probably in the playoffs, or he doesn't go and make it through the other playoff rounds. But
Hmm.
to me, it was going, it's not going, wasn't easy.
Yeah. And Bob, question for you, same thing basically. How did you feel, especially as a rookie? You don't race asphalt. Now you're in asphalt. Now you're in the playoff picture. How did that feel?
I was really cool to be in the playoffs in my first season, joining late and everything.
Hmm.
But I thought that was going to be the end of it for me because I'm not good at any of them tracks. And I just thought, this is it. I made the round of 12. I'm happy with that.
you know, to come over from a dirt aspect to come over to asphalt. What you were able to do, Bob, was just phenomenal. You were able to stay consistent every race and all, and you know, you were able to come into the playoffs. So great driving, bud.
Thanks. The one
Josh.
thing, oh,
Oh, go ahead.
good. Well, one
No,
thing from my racing career, I always tried to race clean and look ahead of me. And it didn't matter if I finished first. I just had to have a good finish every week to try to get up into points. So at this
exactly.
point in my first season there, I was just trying to stay clean, not get into anybody, but run fast as I could. But I always gave up a little bit. If I was side by side with somebody, I'd be the one to give up because I just didn't want to cause no problems in my first season.
Makes sense. You know, so we were about to start the playoffs, but first, let me real quick touch on our regular season champion. All right, Josh, you had a phenomenal 10 race run. I mean, you had out of 10 races, you had 9 top 10 finishes, 8 top 5 finishes, and 3 wins. You know, you average a 3.9 finish per race. Over the course of those 10 races. So
Hmm.
you were coming into the playoffs hot, sir.
Yeah, I was hoping that every finish was gonna be like a 2.9, but like no, but seriously, it was an interesting regular season. Again with the format we had, the other season that we did, season one, they were basically 10 race seasons. Now we just completed that. Now it's time to like playoffs. These playoffs are way different than it was dealing with the other series. With the other season that we did. And it came in, it's just like, all right, this is a learning experience. We're going to learn how to run this, where to be aggressive, how to figure out that I need to be in the front at what time, see what I can do to still work with Samo, maybe J Clay, maybe uh, maybe Warwolf, maybe Killa, um, and the one person that I started to exclude was Bud Lightyear. And you guys are going to find out very, very soon why I really started to not work with him as much anymore because, long story short, he was a douchebag. And yeah, he was a trying to be power greedy, so to speak, with having the best records out in the league, and that's not what we're about. That's not what we do. And yeah, he did not last long in this league. But yeah, being a regular season champion was cool for the first actual full put together season. So that was great. I was just hoping I could ride that momentum off into the sunset. Nep.
Well, Where do you go from, you know, to start the playoffs? We're going to take it down there to Las Vegas. And, you know, race 11, first race of the playoff, goes as follows. Bud Lightyear, and we'll touch more on this in a minute, but he pulls out the win there, followed by Cowboy in second. Werewolf finished third. There's that name again. Bullet Bob finished fourth. And Jay Clay finished fifth in that race. You know, Vegas is a fun track to run at. You know, it's one of those half mile tracks. You know, laps, we get started, 3 laps in, top two pulls away. You know, Samo and yourself, Josh, y'all pull away.
Hmm.
Um, had a good green flag going, 13 laps of green, and then a caution flag just before everybody was about to start green flag pit stops.
Hmm.
Um, the last 7 laps ran under green. Samo comes out with a stage one win. Um, we start off stage two, 2 laps into stage two, and Werewolf drives into Samo and unfortunately collected the rest of the field from fifth back. I mean, I, I I have to say of the ex drivers here, I do miss running with Wolfie,
Hmm.
Werewolf and all. He was a good guy. I I do wish that he was still running with us. I think he had potential to really step up his game if he, with people working with him and all. But unfortunately, things happened down the road that was out of y'all's control. But you know, he was a fun guy to talk to and all. Um, but here comes your favorite moment. We're racing this thing. Um, stage two. Um, Samo goes from fifth to first to grab you know, the second stage win. So which means he swept the 2 stages. Y'all get started. We get started back for stage three. BMF loses it off of four and spins, takes out Cowboy, and then 12 laps to go. Do you want to touch on what happened at 12 laps? Or 12 laps in, I should say.
Yep. So 12 laps in, we probably had about 4 to go. Here we go. The race is winding down. I let Bud in front of me because, I was trying to, again, make sure he was in the best position he could be to go out. And again, we were shuffling him out to the lead. We want him to win the race so we can continue on with this big playoff push for Toyota. Me and Samo, we had points stacked up. The only other person we were really keeping our eyes on was Jay Clay, because Jay Clay had an impressive playoff push. Look at that, another top five. Same name with Wolfie. Wolfie, he was hanging around there with us. And Bob, I mean, Bob was trying to interrupt all the fun, but Bob was hanging out there in fourth. But anywho, so I shuffled out Bud Lightyear to the front, well, to second, and then the last person he had was Samal. Samal went high, Bud Lightyear went low in turn three, I believe. Drives, and he just didn't lift. He drives Samo up the track into the wall. Samo spins off the wall coming out of four, straight into me. My car goes exploding down the infield, spinning just uncontrollably. I get out on the track, no one around, and now I'm out of the top 10. Um, so when that happened, it was only me, Samo, and Bud Lightyear together. So when that happened, it really messed things up, and that caused Bud Lightyear's win. I mean, no one was around him anymore, so it sucks. It sucked to happen like that, but that was our last straw with him. Because from there on out, we pretty much told him we were done with him. We were done helping him. He's a scum. Blah blah blah, etc. etc. Other words I probably shouldn't have said, but I said. And yeah, I believe that was
Well,
his last run in the
well,
league.
right, because I remember that, and he we had our little Facebook messenger group and all that, and video was showed of how he was running and all that, and he's like, "Well, I've already clinched my spot for the next round, so I'll just won't race the next two races,
Hmm.
and I'll just race my own show," and it became a issue to where that ended up actually being the last race that he ran with us,
Yep.
and he was still awarded the win, even though it was dirty how it happened, but as you'll see when we get to the next round, even though he had won, the league was done with him at that point.
Yeah, I mean, we keep it clean and green around here. We don't want people intentionally wrecking or taking anyone out, and sadly, he was doing that. So that was we were done. We were done with that.
You know, so we've got we finished the first race of that round. We go to race 12, another road course in Road America, and I actually enjoyed Road of America. Probably Road America was one of my favorite road courses on the game, to be honest. Um, we get to Road America, and of course, who pulls it off? Mr. Road Course Ringer himself. Smo pulls out the win.
Hmm.
You right there on second place behind him. AJ finishes third. A name we haven't mentioned, Mr. Rowdy Rooster comes up there and gets a top 10. And
Roosted in the
rounding out the
top.
top five, Mr. J. Clay, finished top five. You know, there was three right off the rip. There was three fast cars:
Hmm.
Samo, AJ, and yourself. You
Yep.
know, staying within 5 seconds of each other. Y'all ran a superb, road course race. Samo was able to take the first two stage, you know, took the first stage, and then Samo flip flopped with you and let you take the second stage.
Hmm.
In playoff format, stage points matter. We haven't touched on this, but it helps out, especially if you're in the playoffs. You want to finish as good as you can. That way you can get those stage points because they go towards the final totals and all.
Hmm.
Um, go into stage three. BMF smokes turn three, taking out Samo and Cowboy. Caution flies. You know, same thing happens on restarts. You know, somebody loses it going into one of the turns and all that. Um, AJ goes to pull out a fuel strategy call and runs out with
Hmm.
the last two corners, and Samo was able to, you know, cross the checkers in first place. There's really not much to touch on Road America. I mean, for the most part, it was a good race. There was a couple hiccups as expected on a road course.
Yep. Yeah, just a lot of people missing the braking zones. I mean, he was either missing braking zones or getting on the brakes way too late and just sliding through the braking zone. And sadly, we're running so tight that you're driving through the other drivers in front of you without meaning to. You're doing it because you missed your mark.
Well, real quick before we get to race number 13, let me welcome Mr. Shiesty into the mix.
Thank you, Nep.
Well, look who is back. Nice to hear from you, bud.
I gotta jump in here every so often, keep it fresh. It's not a
Right.
party without Shiesty.
No, but his Shicey's where he's gonna lose his job if he don't pop
Mm.
in here at least,
Well, hell
for
yeah.
5-10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I got to make an appearance. I can't let everybody think I just disappeared now.
Right. Well, we're glad that you, anytime you can pop in, whether it's for the whole show or even just 5-10 minutes.
I'm happy to
Um,
be here.
but moving along, race 13, the last race of the round of 12, we took it down to Texas Motor Speedway, one of my home tracks. Um, and once again, Mr. Josh, you took first place. Samo finished second. NASCAR comes up there and grabs a third place finish. AJ finishes fourth, followed by Killer in a Toyota finishes fifth place in point. I mean, in the running.
So,
Um,
so let me touch on this one. I will put this one out there, plain sight. NASCAR almost won that race. He came off of four with a run from hell. If you watch my replay, he put the car in the grass trying to pass me and Smo at the end. Yeah,
he gave it a shot. That's for sure.
he did. I mean, he kicked off our first season. He kicked off winning the first two races of that season. So he was trying to submit and take another win. So he was driving like a badass. That's for sure.
Sometimes you got to drive it like you sold it. I guess when you're coming to the finish line.
Hmm.
But there was a few cautions in that race. Throughout it. Uh, Texas is one of them tracks that if you don't catch turn coming out, me and Samo touched on this last week.
Hmm.
If you don't catch coming out of turn four, it's just going to send your car right up the track.
Exactly.
And that's where a lot of people had issues is that they catch that little seam and it would send them up into either the wall or whoever was on the outside of them. So most of the cautions, that's pretty much where they came out at, coming out of turn, turn four. You know, but from Texas, that finished the round of 12. We go into the round of 8, and now by this point we got Samo leading in points. Josh is in second, followed by Cowboy, BMF, NASCAR, J Clay, Bullet Bomb advances to the round of 8, and Killer finishes 8th in points. Bob, you come in here fresh off of dirt racing, not for sure how you're going to be able to handle things. We get down here into the playoffs. You have a good, first three playoff races. Able to find yourself in the round of 8, bud.
Yeah, I was pretty excited about that. I like my finish in Las Vegas. The 1.5 mile tracks were pretty good for me, and it's like I just couldn't believe I finished in the top 8. I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty fun. That's what got me hooked. I'm like, damn, coming in this league and I can finish top 8 in the playoffs. That gave me some confidence.
Right. I mean, I think the best I've ever done is I finished in the top 16 in points. So, I mean, but to come in fresh, and not really running NASCAR that much in asphalt, for you to be able to jump up there and finish in a round of 8, I mean, that was an amazing run, bud.
Thanks. I never play like a lot of guys would play them GTA games or F1 and all that stuff, but I never played any asphalt racing games or any of that stuff until this season NASCAR. That's the first time I ever ran anything like that besides dirt.
Well, we go into, the round of 8, and we got 3 tracks to go to. And in a sense, they're kind of different tracks. The first race we go to is at beautiful Okay, there it is. We go to Michigan, another big track. You're able to run multiple grooves there. Multiple lanes. Some people tempted to run that high side, um, or quote unquote the Larson line. So we get to Michigan, race one of the round of eight, and AJ is able to pull out the win, followed by Josh finishing second. Cowboy finished third. Jay Clay finished fourth, and Samo comes out there and finished fifth. Um,
And to the viewers that are viewing this, I'm sorry, but for some reason, the slide is not popping up. So that's why I am still on the round of eight, season two playoff photo.
um, Hopefully it'll pop up momentarily, but you know, Michigan was a fun track. You're if you had the right adjustments at pit stops, you could almost run that thing flat footed all the way around. You just had to find the right drive in point. Josh, you was able to finish second behind AJ. How was things looking towards the front of the pack during that race?
Let's see. Just want to give you guys a heads up. Yeah, that slide's not working for some reason. But anywho, um, yeah, I know it was definitely it was a wild one, if I remember correctly. I believe this was Public's first race, and he wasn't slow, but he wasn't fast, and he did what he needed to do to hold people up and let his teammate win, and that's what he did there. Me and Small weren't happy about it. Um, and Small actually paid the price for it. I believe Small kind of got taken out at one point in time during that race. So that started that brutal friendship. But anyway, it was up there. It was fun up there racing AJ. I always liked racing AJ. It was a blast. His weak spot was road courses. He would overdrive corners. When it came to running a mile and a half, he had that pretty much locked and loaded. So that was pretty cool.
You know, uh, it was it was a good race. I mean, there's not a lot of notes to fall back on. The last couple of races. Guys, we did our best to do as much research as we could. To cover these, and the time that it takes. We all have regular, you know, 9 to 5 jobs. That we go to, and then we get together and we come up with these. And the next couple of races, we're going to touch on them, but we are also trying to speed things up a little bit as well. Um, from Michigan, we went over to sorry. From Michigan, we went over to Darlington for race number 15. Um, Darlington is an interesting track. You got turn one and two are big, wide open turns, where three and four are, you know, three and four is a little bit tighter coming to that finish line.
Hmm.
Um, but Samo was able to come out in the first place spot, followed by Josh. You came in second. AJ finished third. NASCAR finished fourth, and BMF was able to come out fifth. You know, there was a lot of the lady in black, as they call it.
Oh, it was Lady Black, right? And she's my date. Darlington is really my track. I've really taken a liking to it for some reason, somehow, some way. It really fits my driving style, like one of the best. So that was pretty awesome. Um, But when it came down to this race, I don't have notes on it, but I do remember what happened in this. I did my usual. Stage one, stage two, I did sweep. Drove away each stage. Car felt great. I had zero mistakes, zero mess ups, zero mishaps. Altogether, I had probably it was one of the best performances for myself. And then it came down to a pit thing that really screwed over for me. If I remember correctly, a lap car came down into me and wrecked me before I got in the pit road, and that put the nail in the coffin. But it was at least it went to a teammate. Samel grabbed it, and now you see in a each time we're coming up to one of these finishes, you see that it's been me and Smell really pushing Toyota's buttons. Um, so we were
Right.
trying to keep Toyota moving because it was things were starting to get a little harsh out there in the racetrack. So
Right. But we go from Darlington down to Charlotte
hmm
or up to Charlotte. Um, and once again, you know, fun race at Charlotte. I don't believe it was the Roval. I believe we were running
this
the
was
actual.
regular
I mean,
Charlotte, correct?
the regular the regular Charlotte. You know, so but be it the Roval or the Oval, who comes out with the win? Mr. Samo finishes first, followed by Cowboy. Laser Beam, he really started coming in towards the end of that season with Team Ford, um, through some of the guidance that I will say, you touched on this in the Michigan race with Public.
hmm
Public is a buddy of mine. I brought him into the league. Love Public to death. Um, I'm the godfather of his son or his newborn baby and all. And he's a great guy, but his competitive is way too high. He dominates over in World of Outlaw, and he come over here and was expecting to do the same thing, and unfortunately, it did ruffle feathers a little bit, but and not so much as a matter of could he drive, yes, but he was a little rough, or he was rough. We'll just say that he wasn't Bud Lightyear rough,
No, no.
but you know, but he was rough, and but one thing being on Team Ford is he could really do a pit adjustment. So we'd practice, and he could pinpoint where we needed to make adjustments here, tire pressure, wedge, stuff like that, to where we would just have to limp the car the best we could until that first pit segment, be it whether under green or under caution, and then our cars would come to life once we put his adjustments in. So a great car setup guy, that's for sure. Um, but Laserbeam was able to come off with a third place finish. Josh, you finished fourth. BMF comes out there and finished fifth.
hmm
Um, so it was real fun, there at Charlotte. You know, a typical, you know, mile and a half track. You have to really hit your spots coming going into turns and all that. So,
Yeah, I mean
but
Charlotte was a difficult track.
yeah, you know, but we finished Charlotte safely, and you know, after Charlotte, we was down to four, fighting it out for the championship.
hmm
Um, two previous champions and two um up and comers. We had Josh. You come into that final rate championship race, leading the points. Samo was right there on your you're Hine and second in points, followed by BMF
Mm-hmm.
and J Clay. You know, and we go into Atlanta and Atlanta. um,
Mm.
an interest, yeah, a very interesting. You come in, the regular season point champion, champion, going into, the final race of the season. Anything can happen. We got three Toyotas up there and a Chevy. Um, if you had to flip a coin, you would think a Toyota is going to come off with this win. As dominant as y'all had been all season long, we get to Atlanta, and who who pulls it off? None other than you know getting his first win of the season and claiming the championship for season two. Cody Brewer, aka BMF.
Now let me do
Correct me if
some talking on that. Oh, go ahead. Em.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this was his first and only win in the season, in the league. I can't.
No, I don't believe
Oh,
so. I believe he
it
won
was the
another
first one.
race.
So,
It's been his first
oh,
one up so far in the
that's what
season.
it
Yes,
is.
but
Yeah,
yeah, he won his first race of the season, and he did it on championship night. I mean, so the way this all looked, let me refresh my memory here. Well, me and Smo were able to pull away. We had a long green flag run. Came down to pit stops. Smo, I think, had a speeding penalty. I didn't. I came out with like a 7 or 8 second lead, doing great. Caution flies with like 5 laps to go. I'm like, ah, crap. So I was like, okay, well, let me just take 4 tires and fuel and let's roll. Go in, which I thought everyone was gonna do. Came out. I came out in second. Realized MB went in and only took right sides, and I was like, oh shoot. I'm like, we're gonna be in some serious issues. So we restarted with 2 to go. It was a green white checkered. Um, Drove off into turn one. I was hanging up MB's outside. I was able to maintain his outside entering three, and I knew if I planned this correctly, I could drive around him coming off four. Entering turn three, BMF stuck his nose under MB, and Cowboy was in that man's ass. That shuffled everybody. I fell back to fifth. Um, Public was in the mix. I know that. We came off of turn four, and a wreck happened. Well, it was just enough to where BMF's car crossed the start finish line to take the white flag, and the caution came out in the race. And
yep,
yeah, he put that Cinderella slipper on, and it fit. So he showed up at the right time. This race and this season, the championship will always be the one to me, which is the one that got away.
right. You know, finishing up on that. Of course, BMF finished first, clinching the championship. Public finished second.
Mhm.
MB was able to finish third. Cowboy finished fourth, and you finished fifth.
Mhm.
Um, Now, looking at that season, we had 9 different winners. Samo topped out with 5 wins. Josh, you finished with four wins for the season. Buzz Bud Lightyear finished with 2. Harvick with 1. Jay Clay, Cowboy, MB, and AJ finished with 1. And then BMF, the only win for the season, was the one that mattered. You know,
Mhm.
and that took us to you know the end of season two. And it was a fun season. We were we all had a blast. You know, with how it all finished and all. Um, but yeah, with Mister Hall of Famer himself, um, winning the championship. Along with that season championship, there was six. I'm just going to run through these real quick.
Yep.
We had six different awards that were awarded that season. The first one was team of the season, which hands down was Toyota. Y'all had a dominant manufacturer run that whole season. Um, the next award that was given out was driver of the season with an average finish of a 2.67, 2 wins, seven top five, eight top tens. You know, being Samo. Um, the third award that was given out was most improved driver. Well, who other than the one that won the championship, Mr. BMF? He stayed consistent all season long. Um, then the next one was owner of the year, which went to Beastie Boy of Ford Racing. We were able to get a good owner, bid in there. Um, we had one award that we could, the drivers we all voted on who should win these awards, just like any other thing. And we were so mixed that we couldn't come to a solid winner. So we had co-winners for the most popular driver, which came down to Cowboy and yourself, Josh. You know,
Yeah, I think I should have won that one, but that's another story for another day.
right. And the last award that I'm going to mention, and well deserving of this, average finish of 8.67. So he average finished in the top 10. Best finish was fourth place. Um, six top tens, two top fives. But the rookie of the season went to one Mr. Bullet Bob. Bob, briefly, tell us how you felt about being awarded rookie of the season.
First rookie of the season award ever, may I add.
Yep.
First rookie. Well, I was very happy about that because I really tried my best to actually just get them top tens every time, no matter what happened. I just wanted to be in the top 10. I wanted to. That's points racing. Just try to get as close as you can without wrecking.
Hmm.
And with the talent in this league, I mean, it grows every year. But back then, that was when it was really starting to get a lot of good drivers. And I'm thinking, wow, first season ever doing this stuff, and I'm top 8 in points and rookie of the year, and I was just really happy and proud of that. And
Yeah,
not to mention, it came with a cool trophy.
yeah, definitely did.
Right.
I did what I can.
I
Guys
got that
got
trophy up in my garage on my mantle with my other racing trophies and my softball trophies. It's sitting right up there with them, right in the middle of them.
good. That makes me appreciative. It better be. I like these things. I mean, even I have mine on display. Mine's in a little glass case, and it's just like it might not mean much to anyone else, but to me, I'm just like I had to be out 20 some motherfuckers for this. Like I drove my ass
Yep.
off. Like
I
Hey,
have
oh,
mine on display next to some Lego cars.
fuck yeah,
So
dude.
I got my two right up here on my desk. That I can look at. They're motivations for me in races.
Hmm.
I look up there, wanting to get another one, and so and
I bet
it's
you
nice to
Mike
be
has
part.
his in a box somewhere.
It's nice to have to be in a league that you know you can you can show off things, that awards, trophies, and stuff like that, and not just for the person that won the championship in that season, but other awards, and to take the time out to get everybody's information and be able to send them out these awards. Josh, you and the owners and all that, top notch. We I, I can't say it enough. We appreciate everything y'all do for the league.
I know
But
we
Definitely.
are
let's,
running a little tight on
yeah,
time, but I do want to say, you know, it really was my idea. I mean, me and Dylan, we when we first started this, it was just a racing league, and I was like, you know what, we should give these guys something because this means something. In season two, we did awards and we did the championship trophy. Um, I even went back and in season three, I went back and got me and Samo championship trophies for season one because it just all felt right. So season two was the trademark of we're getting awards, we're getting championship trophies, we're making this interactive for everybody, and hopefully everyone can enjoy it. But yep.
My segment, my segment ran a little long. There
Hmm.
was a lot to cover this week, guys. Um, Unfortunately, next week I will not be able to be here. Um, I'm gonna Wednesday next week. I will be on a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean. You know, let's see, Wednesday. So I'll be leaving the Dominican Republic or headed towards the Dominican Republic. So unfortunately, I won't be able to be here next week. But you can bet once I get back to dry land, I will be going back and rewatching. I will watch the episode for next week. But that's all I got for tonight, guys. So let me take it over to Josh with shitty situation.
Thank you, Nip. Shitty Showtime. He might be in this chat, but it is not his time. It is back to four time. All right. So, question. First question I'm gonna ask everybody. This question has nothing to do with our league. This has to go back to if you watched the race, the NASCAR Cup Series race on Sunday. This goes back to that. I want to hear from my panel. We are running close on time, so I can't grab any of your guys' questions for tonight. But we are going to run through this as quickly and efficiently as possible. Harvick, I want to hear from you first. How do we feel about the Denny and Bubba situation that just occurred?
Oh boy, it was at the end. It was a great restart, especially for Chase Elliott, starting from what 10th or 10th back on four fresh Goodyear tires. For him to come from that far back to get up front on the final lap, knowing he's my favorite driver of the season, hands down, that was a great finish, especially a team owner versus his driver and dealing with power steering issues. Hands down. Granted, yes, people are pissed off about Denny Hamlin and a race is a race. If you want a good race, you're gonna have those kind of issues. Everyone wants to have a good race. Even the fans. The fans want the drivers to have a good race and give them a good show. But if you're gonna sit there and complain about it,
Well, I will say this, and I will touch on this too, because I was very vocal when this happened. I see both sides of this story. At first, I only saw one side, and that was Bubba's side. You have an owner racing you, the owner that owns your car racing you, and they drive you up the track like that. And to make matters even worse, now Toyota doesn't get a win. Now the person that need a win to continue on the playoffs now got screwed out of that win. And everyone went, and they let Chase Elliott go and win the race. As a driver's standpoint, if I see my owner doing that, I get it. When you get into the car, you're driving for just that car. You're going to do what you want to benefit that car specifically. I get it to a certain extent, but in the serious note, you are a championship owning team. Your guy has the spot. You're going to run him up the track. And he says he was on the brakes off the gas. I honestly want to see the telemetry because, honest to God, if you were, your car would not pushed up that hard. He was still balls to
So
the wall driving that bitch off. And
I want to touch on it too here, Josh.
yeah, go ahead.
I've seen both sides. I mean, I've seen it in the league, I've seen it here. I mean, you look back, for instance, our Bristol dirt race last season, season
Hmm.
5. Beatty did the same thing to Samo, if I'm not mistaken.
But Speed wasn't
He's
a car
driving
owner.
for himself.
Correct.
But with that being said, Bubba, I don't know that he can get too upset or too vocal about it, being as open and vocal as he is,
Mhm.
because that is his owner ultimately.
Mhm.
He has final say.
Well,
Now,
my oh,
with Denny Hamlin getting into the altercation last week with his teammate Ty Gibbs, who's Joe Gibbs' grandson, I feel like he's walking on some of I think Samoa Nep's thin ice. I think it's got even thinner between Denny Hamlin and Toyota.
well, eh, here's my take on it. You know, one from Bubba's aspect, yeah, that's my team owner. How's he going to do me that way? But a lap or two prior to that, he does the same thing
To
to
Christopher
Bell.
To
All right,
Bell. Yeah. Mhm.
who does Bell run for?
Gibbs.
Okay, so then he comes up there and he says he missed break or whatever the case may be, and he gets into Bubba and Bubba gets into the wall and all that. So it's like not being Denny Hamlin, but it's like I that's awesome. That's yeah, my car that I own, but then he did just take a shot at my teammate. I've got to make things right for Joe with Joe Gibbs because I just took his grandson out the week before, and I'm under heat for that. So part of it's like, did he really misjudge it? Or, and another thing is, keep in mind, Denny Hamlin's been in the league for a long time,
Mhm.
and he's like the Mark Martin. I think he's finished second a couple of times in points, but he's never won a championship.
He's never
And
made the championship
everybody,
before.
everybody always says, we're teammates until that last lap. Then
Mhm.
the last lap, it's anything goes. You know. Now, do you want to take somebody out? No. Did he take Bubba Wallace out? Yeah, he put him in the wall, but did he take him out? No. But in
No,
a
but
sense,
he's.
by that bonehead move,
Mhm.
it even cost him a win
Yep.
because when they got together, it sent his car down, and like a freaking rocket, here comes Chase Elliott and wins the thing.
The way I
So,
look at it is, you got, I think the all of the top six were, if not the top six, the top five were Toyota drivers.
It was
That
top
should have
5 on that
been
restart.
Toyota's race to win.
Mhm.
Period. And Denny Hamlin pulling that move, I feel like the manufacturer alone, he's in deep shit, especially after last week. Pardon my French,
Mhm. I agree.
but
Bob,
yeah.
so Bob, I want to hear your input coming from someone that doesn't really watch NASCAR as much. Um, you have your owner driving for another team on the last lap in the last corner, drive you up the track. How do you feel as a driver that your owner's driving you, racing you like that?
I wouldn't be happy about it, but you can't really say much because it's your owner. But
Mm,
it's pretty dumb of the owner to do something like that when it's his own car that he's knocking out of the track. It's he hurt himself and he hurt his own car. It just,
mhm.
I mean, we've done it in our league. You help your teammate
Yep,
do better.
exactly.
You do it without hurting yourself too.
And nothing for nothing, like I said this prior, Denny's very good on points right now. It would have been perfectly fine for him to tuck up behind Bubba and just push him through 4. Just get him to the line. There you go. Your
And nobody
driver
would have
locks
blamed
in,
him.
and you're up by 35 points over the cutoff going into another race. It just it cost the Toyota to win. Do I think Toyota's pissed about it? I don't think it's to the point where Denny's going to lose his job over it. But in all seriousness, I wonder what Denny's partner in crime, Michael Jordan, had to say about that because I've been like, Denny, what the fuck?
Well,
well, Bubba
and,
is Michael
and
Jordan's driver. That is his man right
Mm-hmm.
there.
well, here's the thing, though. The way things are looking, 2311 might not even exist after this season.
Exactly. They might
Yeah.
have a charter. Yeah.
So it's one of those things. I mean, was it a bonehead move on Denny? Yeah. Tuck in
Hmm.
behind your guy. Assure not only does your team car win that you own, your manufacturer wins, in which you got to somewhat, in case 2311's not here for next season, you've got to assure that if you're going to race next season, that you have a team to race for.
Hmm.
And after the previous week with Joe, with Gibbs,
With Ty Gibbs. Yeah.
you're
Hmm.
you're on you're on thin ice with you know Joe Gibbs himself, and you know Toyota as a manufacturer. They're not too pleased because you took out one of their team cars. So it's one of those situations where, yeah, I get you go for the win and all, but in the same sense, it's like you need to use your head a little bit
Hmm.
more. Was that if he would have won that race, all that would have done was locked him into the championship race. It wouldn't have secured him the championship. So most likely the next race, what I believe it's the Roval here in Charlotte,
Yep.
and he does pretty decent at road courses, so he probably could have locked himself in off of points in that final four anyway. So, and ideally, is Bubba going to have a chance at the Roval to win it? Because he's
Probably not.
going to be coming into that race. Basically, he's going to have to win, or that's it.
Hmm.
He's out of the playoffs. So it's
Now
one of
his
those situations,
teammate Tyler Reddick, I think, might have a shot at it.
right? So I mean, it's interesting to see how things fall. I don't think I don't think Denny's going to be removed from Joe Gibbs
Hmm.
until, if anything, until after the season. But it'd be interesting to see what happens in the off season.
Exactly. But all right, let's move on to the last question of the night. This will be the last question tonight, and we will do our wrap up. This does have to do with our league, so this is just to put a quick little thought out there, guys. My panel, I want you just to give me a number. Don't explain it to me. Just give me a number. We're gonna close this thing up pretty quick. So, um, let me start off with the person that's sponsoring the ARCA series, Bob. How many DNFs are we expecting in our ARCA series?
Well, I'd say I'd go 5.
Hmm.
And let me throw this out there real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to be doing a little, I'm a sponsor of the series, so I'm going to be throwing a little money there for first, second, and third place. It's
And the
not a ton of
points.
money, but
And the points.
we're going to get in the points for the ARCA series. So that'll, if you're thinking about doing ARCA, now you got a little bit more of a reason to do it and stay with it.
Wow.
And it's an entry for free, so keep that in mind.
Free, yes. It's not costing you anything to race ARCA. And there's going to be first, second, and third prize money.
All right, Nep, how many DNFs are we expecting in the ARCA series?
Per race or per the whole
Just
season?
no for the whole season.
Oh God. Not knowing anything about these cars,
Yep.
and depending on how the aspect is, if you wrecked in the race and rolled down the straightaway, you go into the
Hmm.
pit, you fix your damage, you finish the race. But I think there'll be some that, unfortunately, once they're a couple laps down, they'll probably pull it off just to frustrate and leave. So I'm gonna say high teens.
Shiesty, what are you thinking?
20. Period. Just plenty of DNFs throughout the season.
Harvick, what are you thinking?
Honestly, I'm probably thinking when new cars coming on to this game
Hmm.
and people don't know much about them, I'm probably thinking about at least anywhere between 60 to 65.
I was
Wow.
thinking about 30. I think we're going to be in the 30s. Um,
I think we'll have a couple of race at least.
yeah.
Maybe one or two.
But but that will conclude tonight. Again, we did run past 2 hours. Um, Questions and stuff we'll do more of next week. We'll try to create some time for that. But again, I gotta thank all the normals, myself included. Shiesty, he popped in again, and Nep. You guys do great when you guys are in here, and I really do appreciate it. Um, I gotta thank Chad again. I appreciate everything you've done to make some of the stuff that we have in here, some of the slides, and I really do appreciate it.
Gotta
Um,
get that fixed, man.
yeah, and then also thank you for our special guests, Bob. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for
Thanks for having
putting
me.
out some money for the ARCA series, giving some drivers something to look forward to. That's very appreciative. I do thank you for that. And Antonio, thank you for showing up. I really do appreciate your time here, coming in here and chatting with us. I mean, great show like always, and I thank you guys very much.
Glad I could be here. Thanks for having me.
But that is all we have for tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week for episode 6 as we get closer and closer to the new game. Have a wonderful night.